Well, that was an interesting watch. What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Jonas for anything and everything animation. Welcome back to Phantom February 2. Welcome to yet another normal Season 2 episode of Danny Phantom, 22 minutes, The Fenton Menace. Now, what's interesting about this episode is that it's not from Danny's point of view. It's actually from Jazz's point of view. This is a Jazz-centered episode, believe it or not. Yes, Danny is prominently in the plot, but Jazz is the main focus of the episode. So, very interesting little change of pace we have here. And Young Blood is back again. Ugh. Sorry, he's just not a good villain. Is he better here than he was in Pirate Radio? Oh yeah, by 1,000,000%, he is way better here. Do I like the Western theme for this episode? Yes, I do. It's cool to see a Western theme in the Danny Phantom universe. But with that said, I'm going to drop the accent now. With that said, though, still not a great episode. I mean, it's definitely an improvement over Pirate Radio, which was so close to just being flat out bad. Whereas with this episode, it was actually really good all throughout. And not only that, Youngblood's actually a decent villain this time. So, yeah, there's actually a decent bit to unpack with this episode. So let's start with our plot synopsis. Sorry, plot summary, then synopsis. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. And that was dinner talking. Danny's friends and family think that he's going crazy when he claims to see a ghost that no one else can see. Jazz decides on a vacation for the whole Fenton family, but Danny aims to show her that the ghost he sees really exists and it's not just in his mind and it's not just him going crazy. This episode is narrated by Jazz and mostly told from her point of view. By mostly, pretty much the entire episode is told from her point of view. How long's the summary in this one? Beefy summary, but not like Rainstorm, so this won't be too hard to tackle. So let's dive straight into the synopsis, full spoilers ahead. Jazz narrates the story as the scene plays with the Fenton family driving through the canyons. She expresses how she feels she is the most mature member of her family, keeping an adult mind and making sure her parents do not discover Danny's secret. But now she fears that it may be necessary to tell them. What's interesting, though, about Jazz's narration is that it actually reminds me a lot of the opening intros of the 03 Ninja Turtles show, where you would have a certain character that is featured heavily within the episode itself, narrating an intro of what's going on, not giving us quite all the context of what was actually happening because the actual intro takes place later in the story of the episode. So this definitely feels like it's following that same kind of template. And it's not for its detriment, it's actually to its benefit. And not only that, as a huge TMNT 2003 fan, if you guys didn't see my series review of that, that was a really nice little Easter egg. Well, it may have been an unintentional Easter egg, but that's just what it reminds me of. Jazz recounts to how it all began. A family expedition underwater via submarine to search for ghosts. Danny spots the sunken pirate ship of Youngblood from Pirate Radio. Misinterpreting Danny's words, Jack heads inside the ghost ship. Immediately, Danny spots a ghost, but none of his family members can see it. Panicking, Danny quickly heads to the controls of the ship and sends out a variety of weaponry to attack. They escape, but in the process, they destroy the pirate ship and lift the ghost shield that had been trapping the ghost. They reach the surface where Danny's family questions his motives, his parents going as far as to strapping him on a table and spinning him on a machine to take the crazy out of him. That part's funny. Seeing that did not work, Jazz takes it upon herself to figure out his problem. She listens in on him having a conversation with his friends at school where even he thinks he's having hallucinations. Jazz decides that Danny going ghost while in such a state would be hazardous. Tucker arrives with a way to fix Danny's problem of being stuck with his family when he needs to go ghost. He pulls out an iPod containing sounds of Tucker's snoring, sneezing, and going to the bathroom. Yeah, it's random, but the use in the episode's actually kind of funny. for use behind a closed door to simulate a person's presence. As the bell rings, Sam goes to class and drags Tucker with her. Danny sees the so-called ghost again and goes to transform, only to run into Jazz, who tries to stop him from doing so. He runs into the boys' room, however, the one place where she can't follow, transforms and attacks, which worries her even further. With strange noises coming from the boy toilets as Mr. Lancer comes along to tell Jazz if that's her brother in there, then he needs to get more fiber in his diet. Mr. Lancer is way funnier than he needs to be. And that's literally the only line he gets in the episode. Jazz suggests a ghost-free family vacation camping trip, something the parents don't seem to agree to until Danny, having found the ghost again apparently, blasts the entire basement lab with a Fenton bazooka. Yeah, he's unhinged in this episode, and it's actually pretty interesting to see, because we rarely ever see him this frustrated. The next day, Tucker and Sam say goodbye and express their concern to Danny, while Jazz takes the weapons away from the RV and, puts them offline, with a little necklace remote she has around her neck. After Danny sees the ghost yet again, the family heads off. Maddie hands Jazz her childhood Bear Burt Einstein teddy bear while in the middle of driving, to which Jazz orders her not to treat her like a kid, which Danny then replies with that same teenage snark that's been throughout the entire show. Welcome to my world. She then gets into an argument with Danny until he spots a cowboy on a horse, going at about 70 miles per hour and keeping up with the RV. And this is where we get to the big problem I have with the episode. The reveal of the actual cause of what Danny is going through. The intro makes it look really interesting seeing Danny fight something that no one else can see. And that is a very unique and interesting concept, and it was leading to something really cool. But then the entire story saps the wind out of the sails of the actual plot itself by revealing the villain not even halfway through the episode. Like, are you kidding me? For real? Like, not only is that just a lazy way to just throw your great idea out the window, but it's also just so forced. Like, think about it. What if Youngblood wasn't revealed in the episode until the very, very end, where Danny was still fighting this ghost that no one else can see, and then they all figure it out together, and right at the very end, it's finally revealed who the ghost is to all of us, the same time as Jazz finds out who the ghost is, and that Danny is not crazy. But they don't do that here. Instead, they just, oh, hey, it's Youngblood. Now we're going to watch them fight for the rest of the episode where everyone else thinks he's crazy. And us as an audience, this is supposed to be from Jazz's perspective, so this completely just destroys that mystery. And it sucks because that mystery was actually legitimately compelling and interesting. And it just it pisses me off. I'm sorry. It pisses me off that they didn't actually try to do something with this plot outside of, hey, here's the villain, now watch as everyone else thinks Danny is Crazy Town Banana Pants. Like, imagine how cool it would be if they led the audience to believe that Danny was crazy, all the way up to the big finale of the episode. Then you would side with Jazz, and you would understand why she's doing what she's doing. But instead, the villain's revealed halfway through the episode, completely ruining any mystery, and then just leaving us more frustrated with Jazz's actions more than anything else. Like, what a way to shoot your story in the head. His parrot now turned into a horse. Okay, who takes off the tread from the RV's wheels, sending them towards a ravine. Luckily, Jack places in a backup tread. Danny then goes into the bathroom to go ghost and uses the iPod Tucker gave him to make it seem like he's in the bathroom. He then leaves to fight Youngblood again. Jazz, once again, keeps her folks distracted from Danny while muttering about her disappointment in him fighting ghosts, having said that he promised not to. Where, in reality, he didn't promise anything, and she more just forced him to not do that. Where are you? Right here. In the meantime, Danny discovers the reason only he can see Youngblood is that the ghost child is only visible in the eyes of other children. Again, why reveal your villain halfway through the episode when you could have waited to actually reveal that until like the big ending? And then Danny could explain everything later in like his own narration, and then flip back to Jazz and the whole epilogue thing. Like, seriously, just revealing the villain halfway through your episode just completely shot your story in the head. Seriously, that is dumb. During all past encounters, Danny was the only child there besides Jazz, who thinks of herself as an adult, with one notable exception, see the Goose section. Youngblood then sends Danny back into the Fenton RV to continue his pattern of craziness, just in time to leave the bathroom so Jack can use it. Not funny. Youngblood reveals that he plans to convince everyone that Danny is Crazy Town Banana Pants, so he'll be locked up in an insane asylum. I mean, it's a solid plan, but again, don't reveal it halfway through the episode. Wait until like the near end to actually reveal this to the audience. Leave them in suspense. Keep it a compelling mystery. But instead, no. You had to reveal it halfway through the episode of the worst villain of Season 2. Back again. A villain that no one asked to return whatsoever. Just... I'm sorry, I'm getting frustrated when I shouldn't be, but... just that whole... Don't reveal... If you want to do a mystery, do a mystery. If you want to do Danny fighting a ghost and everyone thinks he's crazy, do that. Don't mash them together and choose one freaking lane. Trying to do both at the same time just ruins your story. And again, revealing your villain, the actual mystery is completely destroyed. Not even halfway through the episode. When it's revealed who it is, it's like, what? Why? What was the point of even having a mystery then, if you're just going to reveal who it actually is later? Just stupid, 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 stupid. Alright, moving on. The family sets up camp for the night where Jazz keeps a close eye on Danny despite Youngblood flying around teasing him in silence. Danny hides in his sleeping bag and uses Tucker's iPod to pretend to sleep, only to go ghost and find Youngblood. Again. Jazz quickly figures it out and heads outside where Danny turns human and tries to convince his sister to get the weapons online in the RV. Instead, Jazz kicks him into the Fenton vehicle and traps him inside, putting on the ghost shield to humor him in case a ghost attacks. Which was also kind of her way of saying that she knows that he's a ghost. While Jazz eyes Danny, Youngblood starts pushing the tent containing the sleeping Fenton parents towards a raging river. After much unsuccessful convincing, Danny finally decides to force Jazz to embrace her childhood self by insulting, teasing, and finally ripping her favorite teddy bear apart. Jazz instantly starts to throw a fit over Bearbert Einstein, jumping up and down and crying. Here's Youngblood saying, man, she's even brattier than I am, looks behind her, and finally sees him. Imagine if that was the big reveal of the episode, right there. Like, take the whole stupid halfway point reveal out of there, and imagine if this is the part where we finally see who it is. Again, if this episode is supposed to be told from Jazz's perspective, let the audience believe in Jazz's perspective. Don't set up a mystery just to not follow through. Dumb, 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 dumb. After laying Danny out, he runs off to get help, while Jazz handles Youngblood by returning the weapons to the RV, if not to get revenge for her teddy bear. Which, I mean, she should probably be taking that out on Danny, but whatever. The tent, meanwhile, has been pushed into the raging rivers by Youngblood's horse. Luckily, Danny, now transformed into Danny Phantom, saves them in time before they plummet down a waterfall. Danny and Jazz then work together to stop Youngblood and his horse, eventually trapping them both in the Fenton thermos. Afterwards, Jack and Maddie wake up and attempt to destroy Danny with a Fenton ghost weapon Jack revealed to have somehow snuck through Jazz's sight. But Jazz distracts them long enough for him to fly away to safety, using the same windshield wipers thing that Danny used on her earlier. Jazz concludes the story saying that she is still a responsible young adult, but Danny is a responsible kid, which means that she can still allow herself to be a kid now, and then while it lasts. With that, she hugs Bearer, but then a fart noise comes out. Inside of Bearer is Tucker's iPod, and it ends with her saying that was real mature, Danny. And that's the end of the episode. This story is mind-bogglingly dumb. Like, you had a great mystery set up, everyone thinking Danny is going crazy town banana pants, and imagine if we, the audience, could actually believe that and side with Jazz, who, by the way, is the main freaking focus of the episode, not Danny. But no. You reveal the villain halfway through, you shoot your mystery and your overall story in the freaking head, and then you just play a lot of back and forth of unfunny jokes, and that sharp, witty dialogue and writing somehow decided to take a backseat this time around, as now this feels more like a stereotypical episode of any cartoon show. I'm sorry, I know I'm ripping in this episode a lot, but the more I think about it, the more it angers me, to the point where I can't even call it really good anymore. Because the more I think about it, the more I think about how it missed an opportunity to make a great mystery, and how its villain reveal at not even the halfway point of the episode completely shot the story in its freaking head. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna let that go, because you blew a prime opportunity to make this episode into something unique, different, and engaging. Having it from Jazz's perspective, have the audience believe everything that Jazz is believing. That way, when the big reveal happens at the end of the episode, it hits harder, and it's not like an "oh, I told you so" moment. Honestly, the more I think about it, I think this might be even worse than Pirate Radio now. It has some really cool parts, and I do like the Western theme, but that Western theme is barely used outside of Youngblood's new design, which is just average, mediocre. And the story is just such a frustrating, clumsy, rushed out mess that I can't even try to give it good marks. And I want to go back to past me, slap them in the head, and remind them that no, this is not a good episode of Danny Phantom, and it's somehow even worse than Pirate Radio. But at the same time, having this episode from Jazz's perspective is a really nice change of pace, and there are some good jokes in the episode. And having it from Jazz's perspective adds a whole new different layer to this ongoing story. And having her be the center of attention instead of Danny, with seeing her struggles and getting a little bit of a dive into her character, like, that's fascinating, that's interesting, that's stuff I do like and want to see more of. But then they just cop out instead of just going all in with the mystery plot. Like, imagine this. Imagine if you took out that stupid, clumsy, rushed, not even halfway point villain reveal, and you have Danny continuing to fight something that's literally invisible, thinking that he's going crazy, and us siding with Jazz more than Danny until the final act of the episode where it can finally all be revealed. But I guess the writers didn't think that one through. Like, no offense to the writers, they usually do a great job on the show, but this is the one time where they missed by a long shot. This episode's average. Half of it's really good, and half of it is absolutely frustrating crap. So, again, I want to go back to past me, smack him in the head, and remind him that this is not a good episode, and that the intro lied to you. Look, I don't like lying to the audience. I thought this was a really good episode. I enjoyed watching it, but the more I think about it, and after reading that plot synopsis in more detail, This episode is a freaking mess. And unlike Pirate Radio, it doesn't have a cool 10 minutes to save it. Instead, it just plummets off the same ravine that Youngblood tried to send the RV off of near the beginning of the episode. There's really good ideas in this episode, and I don't think it's the worst episode of Danny Phantom. We'll get to that one, but trust me when I say that this episode, now that I think about it, and now that I've actually read that summary in detail and have given it time to actually sit with me, yeah, I'm sorry for lying to you in the intro. This episode sucks, and it's yet again another uninteresting episode of Danny Phantom that I'm probably never going to watch again. Unless it's maybe, I don't know, background noise while I'm doing other stuff, because this episode is just so frustrating, man. Like, I thought Pirate Radio was darn near bad, but this was somehow even closer to that. Is it a bad episode? No. Is it a good episode? No. It falls flat in the middle, because it cannot decide what it wants to do. It spends most of its time just freaking wasting time. And instead of having this really awesome mystery that could have really made this episode unique and stand out, instead, it shoots its story in the head before it even hits the halfway point. And then it just drags its feet until the climax. I don't know what else to say, man. This episode's frustrating. This episode is just a mess. And I'm sorry for lying to you guys in the intro. I thought this was a really good episode, but the more I think about it, it's not. This episode is painfully average crap. But thankfully, it's followed up by the second 2-part special of the show and the second 2-parter of the season. And I mean, you guys all knew this one was coming. So, final verdict for Fenton Menace is going to be a 5 out of 10. It's a failure episode, and even though it's not technically a bad episode, I would put this in the garbage category because of how its writing just took a nosedive and how it shot its own story in the head. Like, the more I think about it, just the more angry I get. And once again, we have a Youngblood episode of this character that I just don't like. That's it. I know this was a pretty rough one, and I apologize for pulling you in on the intro thinking this episode was really good, but reading between the lines and giving that reading of the synopsis, I finally began to realize that, well, this episode sucks. It's not bad, but it sucks. It is a painfully average bore. I'm probably not going to watch it again out of, just anger and frustration because it could have been something amazing. This could have been a 10 out of 10 episode if they went all the way with it instead of just veering another direction into just another stereotypical episode of a cartoon show where everyone in the supporting cast thinks that the main guy is crazy when he's not. And it just leaves us frustrated with that cast rather than the actual character. Seriously, you could have had a great mystery here. Yes, I know there was Youngblood's ship in the beginning, yes. But still, imagine if, we saw Youngblood, sleeping or something. And then later on, again, in that big final climax, then have it revealed that it was him. It's just so freaking stupid. I don't know what happened with this episode, but whoever wrote this, either they were rushed for time or they just don't know how to make a compelling mystery. Which, that's a lie, because they can definitely make a compelling mystery. So I don't know if this one was rushed for time, not given the full analyzation that it should have, or proofreading, or maybe a second draft. I don't know. All I know is that this episode is not good. It is a painfully average bore, and it is extremely frustrating. That's it. I wish I had something better to lead into, obviously probably the best episode of the entire series, but unfortunately this is a stinker that you can skip. Like, I love that's from Jazz's perspective, but the story just hurdles itself off a cliff. So, next time, join me as we take a look at the darkest, the scariest, the most vicious, most terrifying, and all around, probably biggest fan favorite episode of the entire series. I'll see you guys next time when we take a look at the giant conglomerate of darkness and animosity with the ultimate enemy.